It was the vision in my mind that was more compelling than the circumstances in my environment that were taking my thoughts and triggering an emotion to feel confident and to feel curious. In my mind, and it's just amazing reflecting on this, 11 years later, as a 21-year-old, there was no room for fear. I don't know, we can talk about that another day, but I just unconsciously decided that there was no room in my mind for fear anymore. This was the only choice I had. Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is that you're listening or watching to this. I'm Josh Perry, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of the Change Makers series. Today's episode comes from a question I was asked about when did you feel stuck in life and what helped? Now, for those that are new to this series is dedicated to creating more personal awareness to help you consciously design your ideal life by optimizing your health and performance inside and out as it pertains to what you want to be true about your life, and it's run exclusively live in my Changemakers free private Facebook group. So if you're catching the podcast or you're watching on YouTube and you're not in the group but you want to be, search the group name on Facebook, Tribe Changemakers, and request to join, or look in the description of the platform that you're viewing this from for a direct link to the group. We'd love to have you in there. So with that being said, let's hop right into today's episode. Getting involved to evolve. And as I mentioned before, I was in a ClubHouse group. For those that are unaware of what ClubHouse is, it's a new social media app that's kind of like a, how would I word it? It's kind of like a mix between a public speaking forum, a podcast, and like it's social media. You can engage. There's no content creation. There's no video. There's none of that. It's all audio, and you're just listening to people speak. You're able to ask questions. You're able to participate. You're able to set and schedule weekly talks, daily talks, 24-hour plus. You're able to record now, I believe. It's really cool. It's a good networking, engaging social media, and there's a lot of substance in there and things like that. And I was asked to speak in one of the ClubHouse groups about mindset and different tools that we can utilize and learn from one another and share. And the topic of the group that day was, when did you feel stuck in life and what helped? And very simple. And for me, two things came to mind. And the first thing was the first brain tumor diagnosis I ever received. So for those that are new to who I am and my story and why I do all I do, long story short, chased my dream of becoming a professional BMX athlete. Years into my career, head injury revealed I had a massive brain tumor taking over the left side of my brain. And that diagnosis, or that head injury, saved my life because it discovered the reason why I was suffering for a year and a half, and being denied scans and just fed pain pills because I was being judged by my cover. So when people talk about don't judge a book by its cover, well, that concept, the opposite of that concept almost killed me, because to the doctors, I was a picture-perfect example of health, despite me suffering internally. So it actually took that crash, hitting my head, getting an MRI because of the concussion, looking for TBI, that found the brain tumor. And something that I've become a big proponent of, and for those that have been following me for some time, I got a tattoo that says "Fear is a thought, thoughts can be changed," right across my forearms. I've become really obsessed with this concept of fear and this emotion that is fear and how it plays a large role in our lives. And what I've come to learn is we often as a society go through so much, I'd say, unwarranted, unrealistic fear that we create for ourselves. I label this as perceived fear. And it's a hardwired human instinct that's just programmed into us from before we can remember, any of us. And it's there to protect our lives. It's there to save us from danger, for harm, and potential threats to our lives. As society's evolved and we get to this place where we're afraid of other people judging us, we're afraid of losing our job, we're afraid of all these things that don't really pertain to our literal life. Yes, indirectly, if we lose our job, we may lose funds, we may not be able to pay rent, we may be homeless, all these things, but at the end of the day, it doesn't directly threaten your life the same way getting hit by a car would be, or getting attacked by a tiger, or getting, drowning from a tsunami or a massive wave, or just something like that. There's so much perceived fear And that's our brains unconsciously trying to predict what's going to happen in the future and then justify how we're going to react unconsciously in a situation today. Now, for me, the reason I've become obsessed with this and I speak on this, I get it tattooed on my body, and I just am so passionate about sharing this concept with people is because when I was diagnosed with the brain tumor, I was 21 years old, I was by myself, I thought I was just gonna get told, yeah, 2 weeks off your bike, Josh, because you got a TBI, cool. You know, things could be worse. Things got really worse. Diagnosed with a brain tumor. And in that moment, that was the first time I've ever experienced true fear for my life. Not, oh, is this gonna hurt? Not, oh, are they gonna judge me? Not, am I gonna fail? What are they gonna think of me? You know, none of that. It was literally, I'm gonna die. That was the first thought I had. I'm gonna die. That is such an interesting feeling and experience as a human being, and I don't think many people will ever experience that at a young age, let alone the majority of their lives. And that was the moment I experienced firsthand true fear for my life. Now, we could challenge this concept and this experience, of course, just like anything. There's multiple truths that could be had. But where I'm going with this is a week and a half later, when I was getting ready to go through surgery, there was a real risk of my life ending. The diagnosis was a perceived fear. It was a real fear for my life, but it was not something that was happening to me. It was a new idea. It was a new thought. Nothing in my external reality or my internal reality had shifted other than my thought process, which triggered an emotional response labeled as fear. Emotions are the language of the body, and those languages of the body trigger the mind to think what we feel, and we label it as fear. So in that situation, there was no real fear for my life. There was no threat, I should say, for my life. There was perceived fear. Now, moving forward a week and a half to the surgery, where there was real risk of never waking up again or dying right then and there on the table in the hands of strangers, essentially surgeons and doctors, that was real fear. But what was interesting is I felt more fear in the diagnosis stage of my journey than I did right before surgery. And where I want to go with this is, or where I'm going with this is, it all comes down to your thought process. So diagnosis, thinking I'm gonna die, instantly felt that, triggered my mind to think what I was feeling again or affirm it, and I was afraid. And I went through a dark, hole, as you can imagine, of victim mentality and fear and worry and stress and doubt and all these things. Fast forwarding to surgery, I was so focused on the dream I was living as a professional BMX athlete and what I wanted to be true about my life, I didn't think what happens if I don't wake up. All I focused on and thought was, what am I gonna do when I wake up? How am I gonna become a better person inside and out? How am I gonna perform better on my bike? All of these things. It was the vision in my mind that was more compelling than the circumstances in my environment that was triggering my thoughts, or that were taking my thoughts and triggering an emotion to feel confident and to feel curious. In my mind, and it's just amazing reflecting on this, 11 years later, as a 21-year-old, there was no room for fear. I don't know, we can talk about that another day, but I just unconsciously decided that there was no room in my mind for fear anymore. This was the only choice I had, because my surgeon said, there's a chance that you could die, there's a chance you could become paralyzed, you could, have a stroke, you could bleed out, you could not wake up, but there's no chance that you'll survive if you continue going down this route without surgery. It's just a matter of when you'll die. I mean, again, we can challenge that. It's just a matter of when any of us die, because as we age, that's what we're doing. We're human beings. We eventually die. But you get where I'm going with the context of this situation. So what I learned in that moment, one of the first things that I learned that helped me go from feeling stuck to being empowered and getting to where I am today, was understanding the concepts that we have in our mind, the vision that we create in our mind that is going to be in our future. It's drawing us towards that event. If we can put all of our focus, therefore our energy, towards that vision in our mind, that will eliminate any amount of fear, stress, and worry in our environment, because that vision is more compelling. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to happen right away. Depends on how much focus, how much energy, how much belief you give into that vision. But for me, that vision, because I was already living it, I had proof and evidence to somewhat back that vision. It wasn't entirely, and that's not where we're going with this. You don't need evidence. You just need some momentum in your life to show you, oh, you can do this, you can progress. That vision is going to be more compelling than the circumstances in your environment and what you're going through. And a cool fun fact for everyone listening or watching this, in this moment, We've all overcome our most difficult obstacles or challenges or problems, however you want to label it, in life to get to this point today. That's a fact. You've overcome it to be in this moment now. And I guarantee until I just said that, you probably weren't thinking about any of your problems because you're focused on this content you're consuming in this moment. So just realize that every challenge you've had in your past, you've overcome to be here today because you're alive and you're here. And I would argue you have a willingness to want to improve any aspect of your life. So that was the first piece first tool that helped me go from stuck to unstuck, was focusing on the vision of what I wanted to be true about my life. And those that have been following me for some time, consuming my content, I'm a big proponent of saying that. What do you want to be true about your life? Because this is now. Cool, that's real. It's your reality. Things happen out of our control. We can't control that. Bad things happen. But we label things as good or bad. So I argue that there's really no good or bad, they're just as our experiences, and we give meaning to them, therefore we give energy to them, therefore we create emotion around them. So when you can understand that what you're going through right now is just a reflection of what you believe and what you choose to do responding to things, you can shift that to, what do you want to be true about your life? Let's focus on that, because that's going to give you the energy and the fuel and the strength and courage to overcome an obstacle. And if you think about any challenge in your past, all of those proponents were there. All of those attributes of you and your being were there, and that's why you're able to overcome it and be where you are today. So number one, your vision is more compelling than any circumstance in your environment. And if you don't agree with that, I'd love to hear from you and we'll have a discussion about it. The second event was the third brain tumor diagnosis I went through 7 years later. And this one was interesting because this was, again, the third one, but there was no room for fear, doubt, victim mentality. I remember I was doing an interview with ESPN about my story and competing and just being a BMX athlete. And I remember in that interview process, when we're going back and forth, during that time, I got the diagnosis, the third diagnosis. And I remember telling the guy, Brian Tunney, who was interviewing me, and I was like, man, it was just so interesting because the first thing that came to mind was, what can I do? What can I do? What do I do with this information to help me and to help other people? It wasn't about being afraid anymore. I realized, unconsciously in the moment, I realized I'd overcome this twice and more severe than this third diagnosis. And so I instantly thought, what can I do with this? I was so focused on my vision to support people and to get me and my life to where I wanted to go that I was like, what can I do with this? That's a choice. That's a very difficult choice, but it's still a choice we all have, is to see things that happen to us as, what value can I take from this? What is life giving to me right now? What is the learning from this, rather than, why is life happening to me? Why is this happening to me? Whenever we say things are happening to us, or asking why things are happening to us, or saying it's their fault, it's this person's fault, it's all these things, we're giving our power away to create the life we want, and we're becoming a victim. There's no right or wrong. There just is, what do you want to be true? And are your thoughts, emotions, and actions and belief structures congruent with that truth that you're after? That's it. So I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm not here to say you're right or wrong for thinking this or doing this or being where you are. There just is what there is. And if you're unhappy, then I would challenge you to change your thought process and your perspective on your experiences and look to see what you can learn. Because I guarantee anything you're going through or have been through, there's someone that is going through or have gone through and overcome something more challenging than you. And that's not to make this a competition. That's just to give perspective. And I've talked about this before. I have multiple friends that are missing limbs or have no limbs at all. They're still happy. They're still crushing it in business and in life in general. So literally, there's no excuses. It's all a matter of what you focus your attention, your energy, and your thoughts on. And so with this third diagnosis and this new thought process, I understood at this moment, I made a meaning out of this, that my purpose in life was not to ride my BMX bike anymore, at least professionally. It was to focus on serving other people. It was a higher intention, a higher purpose than myself, which the self-serving purpose of chasing my BMX dream, it saved my life, literally and figuratively, and it made me into who I am today, and it allowed me to find my true purpose. And that's what I do today. That's where my speaking comes in. That's where my content creation comes in. That's where my coaching business comes in. It's all about a larger picture than myself. We refer to this as ecology. And it's when we're going after a goal or an outcome or a desired outcome or an intention, the first things we want to check on, is it good for self? Is it good? And then second, is it good for others? And then third, is it good for the human race and the planet as a whole? That's ecology. It's affecting, or it's positively impacting more than just yourself. And in that moment, the third diagnosis, I was like, man, like there's gotta be something more to this than just, here's a brain tumor, you overcome it, cool, you accomplished overcoming an obstacle, you're back on your bike. Because no one really cared if I rode or not. No one really cared if I won or not. The main thing that I was understanding that people gained energy from and value from was the fact that I was trying again and again. I was picking myself up and going after it. And I was going after something I believed in, which is something that far too many people don't do. And I write about this all the time. People choose a route of practicality and logic and safety and security that's actually disguising other people's baggage of failures and insecurities. And yeah, maybe their truest intention is to protect you, but they're operating from fear, guilt, shame, anger, resentment, and all these limiting beliefs. They don't know that. And so I learned that, my family encouraging me to go after my dreams and to make true what I wanted to be true about my life. I was inspiring other people, and then add in the brain tumor diagnosis, add in the injuries, add in the other things I started opening up about my life. And it became so apparent that their diagnosis was just another wake-up call for me to be aware of my true purpose. And that's when I left BMX competition. I retired, I think it was like 27, 28 years old. I had the best year competing ever, right after an ACL reconstructive surgery. And it was amazing. But it led me to starting my business that's built on passion and service and contribution to others. But I will say, something that I've also become a big proponent of is understanding your identity. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this at the end of this episode. But when I left BMX, I had about half my life wrapped up in this identity as a BMX athlete. And when I was like, yes, I want to speak, I want to coach people, I want to guide people, I want to lead people, I want to support people, all of a sudden all these limiting beliefs came in telling me, who are you to do this? Why, what makes you so good to do this? You can't do that. You're just a BMX athlete. On top of that, you're a high school dropout. You got a GED. You're not qualified to do this. Now I've thrown all that shit out the window and I've taken all of my energy and gone all in on the fact that I've overcome some of the most challenging obstacles that any human being will ever go through. I have value to provide to others. We all have value. Our voice is our value because we all have unique experiences and perspectives of the world that can allow other people to feel connected and not feel alone, not feel isolated, embarrassed, broken, or weird, or anything like that. Unless weird is good for, Jackie, she loves the word weird. I believe weird could be a positive. But if you're thinking, anything negative and you're feeling alone, other people's voices is our power, and it leads to us finding our purpose. For me, chasing my dream not only saved my life, it allowed me to find my purpose. And I think that's something very interesting that I don't see enough people doing is they settle for normal. They settle for the society standard, and they put off what they truly want to do for someone else. It's never about them. Otherwise, people would be content and happy chasing their dreams and failing and getting up and trying again. But we celebrate things like going to college and getting hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and then getting a mortgage and being more in debt, and then getting a car payment, being more in debt. But when someone's like, no, I'm gonna stop this. I'm gonna invest $5,000 into my business. I'm gonna start a business. We're like, oh, what are you doing? That's so irresponsible. What? No, it's all about living your true life. And I just made a post about this yesterday, depending on when you listen to this, talking about, a friend asked me we did a 4-hour podcast. He was like, hey man, how do you practice self-love? It came to me instantly. I was like, I practice self-love by living my most ideal life as closely as I can to being as congruent with my words, my actions as possible. Because what that does is that tells me I love myself enough to go after what I want to be true in life. And that's going to give energy and inspiration to other people to do the same. And so when I was doing when I was going through this transition of the BMX athlete to the speaker and the coach, imposter syndrome clicked in so much. And I just battled through that for like 2 years until I understood my identity was all wrapped up as a BMX athlete, because I was defining who I was by what I did, and what I was doing was conflicting that. I had so many years built up of what I did as my identity. I'm the BMX athlete. And we all do this. We tend to label who we are by what we do. Hey, nice to meet you, John. What do you do? Well, I'm a carpenter. I'm a lawyer. Whatever it is, which is what we do. Rather than understanding who you are is what's allowing you and fueling you to do the things that you do. They're an expression of who you are. And that's one of the things I wanted to challenge people to think about is when someone asks you, 1, how do you practice self-love? How do you practice self-love? Number 2, who are you? Not what you do. If what you do first comes to mind, cool. What thought processes and skills and abilities allow you to do that? let's hone in on that, because then that may spark some interest and inspiration to go somewhere else and do something you're passionate about if you're not doing something you're already passionate about. So with that being said, that third diagnosis was the second time that I felt most stuck in my life. It was going through the imposter syndrome, but transitioning essentially my identity to a different identity, which wasn't really the thing because who I am is still the same. It's just evolved and compounded, but everything I do externally is just an expression of who I am inside. And so the main takeaway I have from actually in this moment sharing these two feeling stuck and what helped was, I said this before, chasing my dreams saved my life, but it also led me to my purpose. So when people ask about how do I find my purpose, just do things you really enjoy, because that's what's going to open you up to receiving the information of what's really meaningful to you and what's purposeful to you. And the second takeaway, I'd say, that came from this third diagnosis. So the first diagnosis led me to the vision is more compelling than our circumstance and our environment. The third diagnosis and then going through imposter syndrome, it led me to this tool, this concept of being at cause is greater than being at effect, which is the equation. Right here, I don't know if you can see it. I have C is greater than E. That's the empowerment equation. Being at cause for our reality is greater than being at effect. And what I mean by that is accepting responsibility and acknowledging that we are at cause for our subjective reality. That does not dismiss things out of our control. That does not say we have control. That says we have control of the way we think and respond to events moving forward. An example of being at effect is saying, it's not my fault, it's their fault, it's because of them I'm not succeeding, it's because of that I'm not happy, it's because of them I'm broke, or I didn't have the upbringing of you, I wasn't born with money, or I'm not healthy because this and that. That's all that's all unempowered language. When you're at cause, you accept the fact that, hey, that tree that has apples and grows apples, they drop, the apples fall down. Now if I sit there long enough, an apple may hit me in the head. An example being at effect is saying, this is your fault, apple tree. Being at cause is, there's apples, they fall, it hurts when I get hit in the head. I'm gonna move. Maybe I'll take a bite out of it. Maybe I'll give it to someone else. Maybe I'll throw it, I don't know. That's being at cause. It does not dismiss things that are unwanted or bad or harmful happening to us. Empowerment means we choose how to move forward with that information. And one of the things I wanna wrap up with is this concept of focus equals energy, which equals our reality. And what we focus on expands. So if we're focusing on all the things that we don't enjoy about our lives and why we can't do the opposite of that, that's where our energy is going to go, and our focus is going to show us more of that. Because our unconscious mind runs 95% of who we are by the time we're in our mid-30s. And so when you're focusing all of your energy on something, your unconscious mind's job, besides protecting you, is to affirm your beliefs. But if you're not aware of your beliefs, you're going to continue asking yourself, why are you unhappy? Why are you sick? Why are you alone? Why are you angry? Why don't you have the life that you want? Why are they doing that and you can't? It's because of your belief structure. And so when you can acknowledge that and refocus your energy onto what you want to be true and asking yourself, what would it take? How can I make this happen? How can I afford that? Anytime you say you can't and then give an outside excuse why, you're at effect, but two, you're eliminating any possibility and potential to see the solution to that. And so I think I've shared this before, the Tare Method, it's just a little acronym. Thoughts, they trigger our emotions, that triggers our actions or our behavior, all of which gives us the results or the reality that we live within. And that reality is subjective. There's not one reality. There's billions of realities, and it's changing all the time. And so if you want to change something in your life, you have to focus on changing the attributes of who you are, your personality, the way you think, the way you feel, the way you behave, and all these aspects that make you a human being. You have to, one, expose these pieces, expose the insecurities. I've done many episodes on exposing insecurities and how to create change, and it starts with changing who you are in the operating system that is fueling how you show up in the world. Because once you do that, you can create new processes and systems without the baggage anymore, limiting your visibility and your energy moving forward. And that is going to get you a new outcome. It doesn't happen overnight. Sometimes things click overnight. Sometimes things take years. I've been on this journey of learning more about myself and creating change for like 10 years now. And it's all starting to click the last 2 years, I'd say. So too many of us focus on the outcomes we want, and then how little we have to do to make that a possibility, because change is uncomfortable. It's unfamiliar to the body. And again, the body will signal the mind to think what it feels. If we're saying, all right, I know I gotta start eating better. I gotta start exercising, or I gotta start doing something different, like not watching Netflix for 3 hours at the end of the night. Okay, well, I've done it for so long now, all of a sudden I make a change, my body freaks out, and it's like, oh no, we don't know what's going on, and it signals you to think, like, you don't want to do that, just start tomorrow. Nah, you can wait, or you're lazy, or you're never going to change, you're never going to succeed. All these things, they're shit thoughts. They're bullshit. That's the body triggering the mind to think what we're feeling because it's different. So you have to get really clear on these things. And again, to evolve in our lives, we have to get involved. We have to truly understand who we are and what our life is like, and if we're unhappy in any which aspect, we can improve them. But it starts with a belief that it's possible, and then it just goes deeper and deeper into understanding who you are that's creating this outcome, and who you need to change into becoming to have a different process, different system that's going to give you a different reality. And so I want to leave you guys with some action items. The first one is, I want you to determine an outcome, a goal, and if you can't think of one, stated in the positive, start with, what problem do you have going on in your life? Any aspect of your life, your physical health, your finances, your career, your relationships, your spirituality, any of these aspects, start there, audit them. Is there anything you'd like to improve? And then if you're like, oh, I'm just unhappy, I'm broke, I'm overweight, I'm alone, I'm not fulfilled in my career, okay, start there. And then flip it to a positive, because I've mentioned this before, the unconscious mind doesn't process negatives. So if you're saying, I don't want to be broke anymore, all the unconscious mind here is broke. It doesn't hear, I want abundance. So start with the problems that you have in your life, or the things you want to change, and then flip it to a stated in a positive. For example, I'm broke and I don't want to be broke anymore. That a positive would be, I want financial freedom. I want financial abundance. Or, I'm sick and I'm overweight and I'm just, I'm sick of feeling pain. Okay, the positive would be, I want to feel healthy. I want to feel strong. I want to feel energized. I want to feel abundant. I want to look well. I want to think well. I want to perform optimally. That's stated in a positive. That's number one. Number two, once you have this goal, this outcome stated in a positive, then list out all the attributes of the way you got to think and feel and behave on a daily basis. What that ideal personality would be that will get you that result. And then all you do is you start with one new attribute every day. You set an intention, whether it's an alarm on your phone, it's sticky notes, it's reminders on your phone, it's written everywhere, whatever. You start with one attribute that you can put into a goal that you can build upon, and give it 7 days, give it 14 days, and then add another one. I know a lot of people are going to get frustrated by this because we want quick results, we want things now. We have a cell phone that can do anything we want really while sitting on a couch. We can have a service come to our house. We can have groceries delivered. Hell, if you're in California, you can have weed delivered to your house legally now off of your phone. That is the most ridiculous thing, but it's amazing. But it can be utilized in the wrong manner. So you don't have to do anything. But I would encourage people to adopt the concept of delayed gratification, because that's what leads to true success and longevity and maintenance with success. Anyone can get a result and then lose it. It happens all the time. I've talked to many millionaires and billionaires that lose everything and then gain it, lose everything, and then like the fifth or sixth time they actually realize, I need to focus on how to maintain this and how to grow this, rather than being afraid that it's gonna go away, or trying to find hacks and shortcuts. It's not about that. And so with all that being said, if anyone's interested in having a conversation about this, if anyone's interested in digging deeper into this, and if you're ready to change, I encourage you to reach out. Whether you leave a comment below, you send me a DM on any social media, you email me, josh@joshperrybmx.com, go to my website, whatever you want to do. You want to reach out, it doesn't have to be with me, it can be with someone else, be with an accountability partner. But if you're ready to change any aspect of your life and you want to dig deeper and build a plan to make this happen and to sustain this plan, I encourage you to reach out and let's have a conversation and see what I can do to help support you. Because these things I've just shared are not only what I do with my clients, more importantly, they're what I've lived and I've implemented in my life. Again, if you follow me for any amount of time, you know I'm not about theory. I'm about application. There's a difference between someone that can go learn something and teach it and coach around it. There's a vastly different approach to someone that has lived that method, has walked the talk. Both can provide value, but someone that's gone where you want to go, I find that they can resonate more, and they're going to be able to hold your hand more, or not hold your hand, but hold you more accountable, but also be able to relate and understand how to get back on the path. At the end of the day, we're all trying to find our path to our success, our ideal life. And others that have been there and done something similar, I call virtual mentors. And so many virtual mentors have helped me in my life, and I've been fortunate enough to become friends with some of them. So again, I don't want anyone to think you're alone, that you can't change. If you have a willingness to change, you're able to change. And I'm living proof of that. So with all that being said, this is the episode on getting involved to evolve in your life. And I am so thankful to have all you here. Again, if you're not in the Facebook group, look below whatever platform you're listening or watching. Click the link to join. We'd love to have you, and we'd love for you to introduce yourself, ask some questions, and get involved. At the end of the day, you got to get involved to evolve. So I appreciate you guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon.